This is corporate welfare. Well, now FEMA, that's the shadow government system, is expanding floodplains. And I was getting a bunch of calls the last 2 weeks about this. I know some folks that have a little lake cabin, and it is just probably 100 yards away from water, 60, 70 feet from where the lake has ever flooded, and massive insurance that they've been told the federal government says you've got to buy, and FEMA underwrites it. FEMA gets a big cut of it, and we've got this TV report, a levy official, FEMA plans to scam to raise money. Rob Rash, CEO and chief engineer of the levy district, made his accusation Saturday during a candidate forum. Rash told candidates that FEMA officials told him the agency owes $20 billion to the U.S. Treasury, and the only way they can get it is through flood insurance premiums. And so, but it's also the precedent of this being set up where they're going to start making people buy flood insurance who are 5,000 feet above sea level. I mean, this is really happening, and it's another form. It's like all the bills, new ones every year on your cell phone bill. Now they want computer service charges for your internet. Now they want all these other environmental fees. Just hundreds of new taxes all across the country are coming, and it's just destroying us. So we appreciate Rob Rash for joining us. Sir, thank you.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate the time.
You bet. Okay. I mean, tell us about yourself, what's happened, what FEMA said in these meetings.
Alex, when we met with FEMA in Washington, D.C., they told us point blank that they had $20 billion worth of debt that they had to repay from Hurricanes Katrina and Rita, and the only way they had to recoup that money was through flood insurance premiums. And what they are doing in 2004, the Congress started the map modernization program and directed FEMA to update their maps, but the update was just to digitize these existing maps for ease of replacement and renewal. In 2006, FEMA began a map modernization program or the mid-course adjustment post-Katrina, which incorporated levees and definition of floodplains. And what FEMA's doing is they are redefining floodplains across the country and requiring flood insurance so that they can recoup the money lost through Hurricane Katrina and Rita. And so what they're doing is areas that have never bought flood insurance in the past are now being at least either strongly recommended or required to purchase flood insurance. And this will affect 40% of the country. There's a 40% chance that you will be caught up in this scam. The reason that it is a scam is because if you go to any insurance company in the country and buy a flood insurance policy, FEMA underwrites every single one of those policies. FEMA is setting the rules, FEMA is defining the floodplain, and they are also setting the insurance requirements for the purchase of.
And they get a percentage of that money and put into a fund, correct?
That is correct. They get that money will go to the U.S. Treasury, or is supposed to go to the U.S. Treasury to repay the debt incurred by Katrina. Now, with the mid-course adjustment, that was all written within the bureaucracy. That was not mandated by Congress. The 2004 bill, map modernization program, was mandated by Congress. The mid-course adjustment was all done within FEMA and the bureaucracy, and that is what incorporated the redefining of floodplains. And what FEMA's doing is they are completely ignoring the flood control structures that have been constructed the last 100 years across this country. And if you are affected at all, protected at all by a man-made structure, you will buy some form of flood insurance, and it will affect 40% of the population of this country.
So if you live even anywhere near a dam or anywhere near a levee or any type of Army Corps of Engineer program, they're now going to have this expanded tax. And FEMA, I've also read, but correct me if I'm wrong because I've just seen it here and there in the news, that they're also saying we may not allow building in expanded areas now. And so it's federal jurisdiction over where you can build, what you can do, federal control over the levees districts, over the counties, just a giant scam. And if they get away with this, the sky's the limit.
Alex, what they're doing right now is that every one of these municipalities across the country that is facing the map modernization or the remapping of their area, they are sent an ordinance from FEMA. And I'll quote you from that ordinance. This ordinance states that they will limit that this municipality, anyone that requires this or adopts this ordinance, will limit any unwise development in floodplains. Well, who determines what unwise development is and adverse impacts of floodplain development? And what FEMA is doing is taking areas that people have lived and raised families and businesses for hundreds of years and built flood control structures to protect themselves, and they're negating these flood control structures and requiring insurance behind them in an effort to limit development. And this will destroy economic development in numerous areas across the country. And I'll give you an example. Collinsworth, Illinois, the federal government and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers came in and built a levee system from scratch that exceeded the 500-year level of protection. Under these new requirements issued by FEMA, these levees no longer meet those requirements, and although they passed a 100-year flood in 93 and 97 and protected the people of Collinsville, Illinois, they now are considered a high-risk area and are required to buy the highest amount of flood insurance, the highest.
Well, here's another example. Take areas of Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, areas of Texas. There's a lot of families and individuals that bought, over the last 100 years, cheap property. They're building golf courses, hotels on it. I mean, you name it, but people own it. And I've seen articles in different newspapers where now FEMA and others are just saying, look, you can't build here anymore. And if people choose to build a beach house that's 20 feet off the ground because they want to be on the beach, that's their business. And if they don't want to have it insured, they shouldn't be forced to get that insurance. So, I mean, this is really tyranny. And we see where this is leading, just where the sky's the limit.
Right. And what's going to happen is FEMA is requiring these municipalities to accept this ordinance, or they will withhold funding for any emergency management, any emergency, whether it be a tornado, whether it be an earthquake, whether it be any type of emergency. They are threatening withholding of funding unless these maps are accepted by the local municipality. And as part of that, they have got to accept floodplain management, which requires everything to be elevated above that, quote, 100-year flood elevation as determined by FEMA.
So basically, this is worse than federalization and a violation of the 9th and 10th Amendment. This is unelected executive branch FEMA basically saying, look, 40% of this country, we're now in control of it. We're the boss. We run your county. We run your city. We run your state. That
is correct. That is exactly what they're doing, and they are holding future federal funding for any type of a disaster as they're dangling that carrot in front of them.
And let's be clear, they take our state money and on average send about 33 cents back with strings attached.
That's correct.
I tell you, pretty soon won't be able to do anything without FEMA's permission. And if they pass this carbon tax law, home inspections, federal zoning laws, it just goes on and on. I'm getting a lot of feedback on this, and I'm seeing a lot of news articles where local flood managers and people are really upset by this. So it looks like at least some people are becoming aware of what's happened. Is there any way to stop this?
There is a way to stop it. Congress can stop this. It takes quite a few congressmen. I'll give you an example. In 2007, there was a bill that passed through the Senate requiring mandatory flood insurance across the board behind or protected by any man-made structure. It passed with only four votes against through the Senate. It did not. It came out of the Senate Insurance Committee, which Chairman Senator Dodd is chairman, and it passed with only 4 dissenting votes. However, we now have 16 senators that are against this mandatory flood insurance and what FEMA is doing. And this letter has been sent to FEMA, and several meetings have occurred with FEMA to slow this down through the bureaucracy. But it has to be stopped, and it'll have to be stopped through the Congress.
Okay, reading this article from KATV Television, and this is out of Truman, Arkansas. It says, an official at the St. Francis Levee District says recommendations by the Federal Emergency Management Agency for local landowners to purchase flood insurance are nothing more than a scam. Rob Rash, CEO and chief engineer of the Levee District, made this accusation Saturday during a candidate forum at Truman attended by several people hoping to win the 1st District congressional seat. Rash told candidates that FEMA officials told him the agency owes $20 billion to the U.S. Treasury and the only way they can get it is through flood insurance premiums, part of which FEMA gets. So, I mean, to be specific, though, this is not an accusation. You're saying this was openly said when you were in Washington.
That is correct, in a meeting at the Mayflower Hotel with the Mississippi Valley Flood Control Association and FEMA. And this, it's very clear, and FEMA officials were very clear that the only way that they have to get money is through their flood insurance premiums. And that is what they are pushing. They are taking flood control structures that have federal dollars and local dollars and billions of federal dollars and local dollars to protect citizens, and have been designed, constructed, and maintained over the last 150 or 200 years